Hello, this is Algebra Chapter 7. We'll be talking about polynomials. And in 7.1, before we go over adding and subtracting polynomials, we need to go over quite a few terms. And then one of those terms is a monomial. So a monomial, the prefix here is mono, meaning one. And then a monomial could either be a constant, which is just a number, could be a variable, or it could be the product, which means multiplication of a constant and either a variable or variables. So we'll take a look at quite a few examples of what a monomial can be. If a monomial is just a constant, it could be something like 5. It could be something like -3. It could be a variable like x. It could be y. Okay. It could be the product of a constant and a variable like 5x, -2y, okay, or variables. Positive 3xy, 12x squared, y to the fourth. Okay, you could have exponents for your monomials as well. If all those are monomials, you might think, well, something or everything could be a monomial. Let's go over some non-examples of monomials or things that are not monomials. Certain things that can't be monomials. It says a monomial is a constant variable or the product of constant and or a variable or variables. So I can't have something like this, 5 divided by x. That's not the product, that's a quotient. Just think about not being able to have the variable in the denominator. Okay, I can't take something like the square root of x. That's a non-monomial. Okay. It's also not the sum or difference. So x plus 5 is not a monomial. It's made up of monomials, which we'll talk about later, but this is not just one term. It's more than one term. So those are some examples of non-monomials. And then another term or concept that you need to know is the degree of a monomial. So the degree of a monomial is just the sum of the exponents of the variables of a monomial. And we'll take a look at some examples. So I took some of the monomials that we listed earlier, and then we could figure out the degree of each of those monomials. So the degree of a constant, -3, there's no variable there. If I did put a variable like x, if you remember a property of exponents, it would actually be to the 0 power. So the degree of a constant is actually 0. I'm going to line this up so we could see. Sorry about the non-straight lines, but just to match everything up and you know which degree goes with which monomial. If I just have a variable x, remember there's an implied exponent of 1 here. So the degree is 1. That's also called a linear monomial. If it's 5x, even though there's a constant here, I just take a look at the variable. The degree here, or the implied exponent, is 1, so the degree would be 1. And then if I have a monomial that's 3xy, remember x is to the first, y is to the first power. I add those, that's the sum of the variables of, the degree, take the sum of the exponents of each of the variables here. So 1 plus 1, the degree here is 2. And then for the last monomial, 12x squared, y to the fourth, here are my two variables, x and y. In order to come up with the degree, add the exponents here. 2 plus 4, the degree is 6 for that monomial. Another key term that you'll need to know is a polynomial. So the prefix there, poly, that actually means many. Next year when you take geometry, you learn about polygons. A polygon is just a many-sided figure. So a polynomial is just the sum of monomials. Monomials could be negative as well, so technically, I could also say the sum or difference, but an example of polynomials like x is a polynomial. Even more specifically, since there's only one term, it's a monomial. X plus 5, we said that's not a monomial, but there's two terms there. Certain polynomials have specific names. So you name a polynomial by the number of terms. There's one term here. We've covered what that is. That's a monomial. So the key here is knowing the prefixes. If there's two terms, x is a term, a monomial, and then 5 is a term or a monomial. There's two terms there. The prefix is bi, so it's a binomial. If there's 3 terms, like x squared plus 2x minus 4, there's 3 terms here. X squared is a monomial, 2x is a monomial, -4 is a monomial. There's 3 terms there. So the name of that polynomial is a trinomial. You have to be familiar with each of the specific names. Mono, 1, bi, 2, tri, 3. If there's more than 3 terms, like 4x to the fourth minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 8. Again, there's 4 terms here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then all you name this is a polynomial with 4 terms. There's really no such thing as like a quadnomial, if that's what you were thinking. So really, only the first 3 polynomials have specific names. If there's 1 term, it's a monomial, 2 terms, binomial, 3 terms, trinomial. Anything after that, a polynomial with 4 terms, a polynomial with 5 terms, and so on. Okay. All of these are still polynomials, like x is a polynomial, but the more specific name is a monomial. X plus 5 is a polynomial. The more specific name is a binomial. But those are examples of polynomials, monomials, binomials, and trinomials.